Today we have a bit of a different format where we have a couple, Sean and Nikia Tull, on the show today, and they're going to talk all about boundaries in relationships, growing their marriage, and also contracts in their marriage. Wonderful show today. Tune in and listen after these messages. Thank you for tuning in to the Dating Mechanic Show. Don't forget to check out our ice cream. No, not that ice cream, but ice massage cream. Our Silky Shea formula not only soothes and relaxes, but also keeps your skin deeply moisturized. It's perfect for those intimate massage sessions with your partner or simply as a luxurious self-care treat. Want to support the show? You can purchase ice massage cream easily on Amazon or just head over to thedatingmechanic.com.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, turn on your ears and open up your heart, because you know dating each other out here today is definitely a fine art. So, to get us off to a great start, please welcome the one and only dating mechanic herself, Miss Alicia Bennett.
We're here with Elder Sean Tull and Prophetess Nikia Tull, and they are with Rise Fellowship Ministries. And we're talking today about working together in ministry, because as couples, boy, oh boy, it's hard and challenging as a couple when you're not in ministry. But when you are in ministry, whether it's together or separately, it creates some challenges. And so we want to talk to those couples today who are in ministry together, who work together, right? They may have a business together, because that's a ministry in itself, yes, right? Yes. And for people who are thinking about going into ministry with their partner, right? And we want to kind of talk to that. And it's something that I can talk to as well. So we're going to have a great conversation today. Awesome. And first I want to say, thank you so much for being here, because this is a taboo kind of conversation that really doesn't come up a whole lot, because in faith, everybody has to be perfect. When you're leaders of an organization, you have to be very careful about what you're putting out there and how you're putting out there. You can put out there that you're struggling, but it can't be too much. And it depends on what it is. Yeah. And it's all these caveats to what you can put out to the public and be real and honest with them. And so let's speak to that a little bit today. First of all, I do this with my clients all the time. Give me a word about what you're feeling. Just one word. What are you feeling right now? Just one word.
Transparency.
Oh.
Right, that's okay. A good one.
That's a good one.
Okay, I just feel
one word.
Okay, excited.
Okay, yes, we love excited as well. We're gonna have a great time today, and I'm loving our conversation already. I feel the energy already. Tell me about your ministry first.
Well, we have our ministry, Rise Fellowship Ministry. That's really one of our baby. One of the things that we birthed together. What God had us to do with that one is to be an outreach, is to design to outreach to the business community, to pull that together with the spiritual community, and pull that back to the general community, to make sure that everyone knows what each other's doing, and to bring resources back to people. So, because we've been entrepreneurial, pretty much both of us all our life, and we know, as you had said earlier, business is a ministry, and we had the business to ministry through together for over 20 years. But one of the things God told us is change that around to do ministry to business, because one of the things that we realize, as you start working your ministry as a business, you don't have someone to talk to. You don't have someone to deal with you spiritually. You're one of the things that I always say is, you talk to someone that your greatest faith walk is your business, because you have to walk by faith in your business. A lot of times people talk about walking by faith, but you have never walked by faith until you have a business.
Come on now.
So
And you on your last dollar, and this better work.
Yeah,
And
yes, and you're like, everything is coming against you.
Yes.
Yeah, all your friends is telling you this ain't working. Why you why you quit your job? Why you did all these different things? You're crazy. Your mama telling you crazy. Your dad looking you sideways. All these things are happening, and
Right.
all you know is you saw this vision, and that you have to step out in faith. But everywhere you go, in general, and we realize that talking to people just in general, it's like you give them something of a word of encouragement. It's like a person in the desert just grasping for water. It's like, whoa. But so when God gave us that vision of Rise, is to help business community rise, help community rise, help the spiritual community rise. We want to get that back to where people are integrated, and then so that they can work together. So
But
that's the vision.
also putting church back where it belongs.
Amen.
Because if you look at our history, churches has always been in the forefront of any movement. And lately, if you look at it, where are the churches? You know, it's to the point that churches are now in competition with each other instead of in fellowship one with another. Where do people go to get their information? They go to churches. But if the preacher is not talking about business, if the preacher is not talking about politics, then how is the community supposed to rise? How is the community supposed to thrive? And back in our history, if you actually look at it, what helped our communities thrive is because it was 90% entrepreneurs and 10% employees. But now, if you look at it, it has shifted where we have 10% entrepreneurs and 90% employees. But what happened? The churches moved out of position. So can churches get back in position so our communities can now start thriving? The business community along with our actual neighborhood community. And I always tell people you can't even really call a neighborhood a community because there's a difference between a community and a neighborhood.
Okay, well, tell us that. What
A
that is.
neighborhood is just a group of people that live together. And guess what? We have no resources. You're my neighbor and we all up in the hood. A community is a group of people that come together with resources, and those resources flow within the community. So a community without resources, you got a neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the vision. And we know that every time we tell somebody this, especially that little quick thing with a business owner, and then we start saying that, everybody like, what? And
Yes.
Yes. So it's praise God for that, but at the same time it's like, oh God, you have fear, you have like this, you have all these things coming against you. You have to step out in faith. So yes.
So then you understand the concept if I tell you, like I've told others, because it's along the same lines. I'm listening to you and I'm like, oh, we're in sync with what we believe in certain areas. So if I tell you that you have a union, you two have a union, and your union is broken up into 3 parts, and it's your marriage, and it's your relationship, and it's your spirituality. That's not a far-fetched thing to understand, because what you're talking about is business and relationship to your community, and then your spirituality within all of that.
Yes.
That's it.
Yep.
And it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
And that's how you get holistic. Because now you're covering all areas.
Well, and we're not just focusing on spirituality or that one thing, but we're incorporating those things because those things intertwine.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They overlap.
Yes.
Exactly.
And so what we have to not glaze over in this whole thing that we're talking about is that we have to have faith and love and charity and all of those things, but we also need to think logically.
Yes.
Because if we don't think logically about everything that's happening around us, like you said, who's coming to the church when we're talking about politics? Who are we allowing into, our church to tell us how we should govern ourselves by law?
Exactly.
Yeah.
How are we, talking about different businesses within here, and how are we helping one another to have those businesses thrive.
And let's be real, and because I always say this because we're here as Black people here, so I'm not afraid. Now, some people be afraid to say that.
Oh, we're
but
not afraid on this show.
Okay, so if you look at other communities, white, they don't have that problem because that is literally like the religious community is like the forefront of their political movement. Their business community is in the forefront of the church. And one day I was even talking to someone who's like, how you get that hall? Well, I get my business community in my church and we pull together and do X, Y, Z. You see the Black, there ain't no business community. If it is, there ain't no business community in the Black church. There is. It's like the one dude inside. He like start asking me for more money. But so what we want to do is to create a difference in that mindset. We have to get back to the dollar in our communities. I know that's not necessarily what we was main point.
Oh no, absolutely. We are
but
here
the
to talk
dollar
about
have
all the
to
things.
keep on rolling, right?
Yes.
Right now it's like 6 hours. A dollar gets spent. We get $1 in our community because it's not a community, it's a hood. So it stays 6 hours.
That's it.
Other communities I think the top one is Jewish community is 20 days. So what that means is that when I get my $1, I pay to my friend who have the bakery, who gonna pay it to their dry cleaners, who's it's staying 20 days, which means it's multiplying. But all that is, if you look at that and you're looking at the Jewish community, it's all through the synagogue. Right? So it's back to that part of it's not separate. Like we have literally became hey, church is separate from the rest of our lives. No, it's supposed to be integrated so that it help propel it and give a guideline. I one last thing is that someone was mad about the Black Lives Movement. One was a pastor who was like, oh, I didn't agree with all the things they were saying. I'm like, okay, well, what you doing? I'm like, the thing is, I'm not necessarily the thing is if you're not in the movement, you don't have a say.
Exactly.
Right? So when this last movement happened in the church, I was like, wait a minute, where's this part or where's that part? Well, was you in the movement?
That's it.
Right.
You're not in the movement, then you don't
impact it. You're not impacting.
You're not
in any
impacting.
way. When we talk about churches, and I've been to all types of churches, multicultural churches, and other ethnic churches, and then we come to our churches, and we've had the building fund for 20 years. And we have no land. We haven't even purchased the land to build the building on.
I remember they have the little thermometer.
The thermometer.
That's right.
But the difference is in other churches, they hit the thermometer goal.
Yes.
Because they create a plan and they execute the plan.
Yes.
We will have chairs by this or pews by this, time. We will have this without. There is a church, Jacob Hobson. Do we know Jacob? Hobson, Hampton, Newport News? Newport News area. And the wonderful thing about his ministry, they have they had a grocery store.
Oh, wow. Okay.
First grocery store, nonprofit grocery store.
Okay.
An area in Virginia, I think. But in his church, all of his members were driving. If they didn't have a car, they joined his ministry. You had a car.
Okay.
You got a job, right? They were investing in stocks. They were creating the plan in order to flourish in the community.
Exactly.
Right? And so first of all, you show me a church that doesn't have any children, you can't grow.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's number one to me. But the other thing is, if you don't have a church that has those small communities within it that are teaching finances, that has the marriage ministry, that has the singles ministry, that has those types of ministries that will further the congregation.
Yes.
That's it.
If you're just coming to church on Sunday and you're getting the word, and then you come back next Sunday and you're not applying anything.
But I think we need to change the word, because words paint pictures. And as you speak, because you have to realize God didn't create or make words for communication. He made words for creation. So it all depends on what your word is creating. So if we keep saying church, then we're going to keep creating churches. But what God's whole entire vision was not for us to make churches. His whole thing was for us to build a kingdom. That's why he says, my kingdom come, as it is in heaven, so shall it be on earth. So his kingdom is within us. So we have to change that and realize when it comes to kingdom, it is no sexuality involved as far as male and female. It's no color involved when it comes down to kingdom. As a kingdom, and if we really actually study the Bible on what kingdom looks like, the people came to the synagogue for resources. And on the outside of the resources, it was a marketplace. And the people who sat idle in the marketplace, guess what? Someone from the inside of the synagogue came out and said, hey, if you're not doing anything, I can find you work. But that's the problem. We've now said so much about churches that now people are creating more and more churches and thinking that, hey, if I'm sitting in a pulpit and I can talk distinguished and I can influence people to pay me, then you're not giving nothing back to the community because you got too many people in the pulpit thinking that the pulpit is what's making them rich.
Well,
Instead of actually looking at it, if I get selected or if I have a calling on my life to take this position as a leadership, then that means that the position that I hold is not the person that you're honoring. It's the position that you're honoring because the position came from God. So if you're a pastor sitting in church, like Christ says, I send pastors after my own heart. So if you are a true pastor sitting in that pulpit, your first thought process is what resources can I come to bring back to my community? But you first have to understand the structure on how the whole structure is supposed to be, because if you are a church, then a church should be able to reach out to their government in order to get grants to then therefore resource the church to keep the lights on. So now therefore tithes and offering is not keeping the church afloat. But people got to get the structure.
Well,
Yep.
and I said this during the pandemic. I said, watch, this is the test. This is the test to see if these churches will come out of this understanding better that it's not the building.
That's it.
How do we get people to recognize that it's not the building that they're worshiping?
Yes.
That's it.
Right?
Yeah.
That's it.
So within that, because you talked about pastors get burned out. Okay? I was a minister in education. We, as spiritual leaders, educators,
Yep.
you get burned out.
Yes.
So setting up a structure allows you to not get burned out because the pastor's not doing everything.
Exactly.
But that's because they're not looking at the structure that Christ set up. Okay, if you look at the structure Christ set up, if you go back to actually in Ephesians, when it talks about the positions, he says, I set up this fivefold ministry. So he says, I gave some apostles, some prophets, some evangelists, pastors, and teachers for the edifying of the body of Christ. And until we see that and come together under one unity of one faith, which is knowing Jesus Christ is who he is, he ain't coming because we're divided. So he says, until that unity come back together, apostles is there to establish. Do we really have apostles truly establishing churches? Prophets is supposed to work alongside of pastors, which means we know the heart of God. We see the vision, so therefore we bring the vision to the pastor, and now the pastor hears from God to say yes, but now the pastor kind of navigates on how I can gather the people to navigate them through the course that you're telling me about so we can reach the final destination that God wants us to be at. And then you have your teachers. The teachers is there to now take the word and break it down so the other people can understand. Believe me, it's when Christ said, come and follow me, he didn't say once you start following me, you're Christians. He says, if you follow me, you become my disciples indeed. And disciples are supposed to be making other disciples. He says, go and make disciples of men. So where's our disciplers making disciples?
And that goes into the last part, the evangelism, and that's one of the things that we are our goal, even at the church which is Chesapeake Christian Center, is to create that whole evangelistic position. And when I say evangelistic, I'm not talking about what people see or thinking they see, where you're saying people yelling at people and saying, you're going to hell. I'm talking about
that's a thing.
That's a literal thing, right? That's a literal thing, because and I get so mad about that, because I don't think anyone have ever came to God because of that. I mean, that's literally, I don't know what Jesus they're talking about, because that ain't mine. So that is actually, I don't maybe get started on that, because but the point is, it's talking experience, is spreading. Now this goes back to what we was talking about, telling people about the resources, telling people what they can, because God, let's just say, going back, God fed people, and so people listen. God showed people how to get healed, so people listen. God did those things so people listen. So
he showed people how to make money as business owners.
Oh, he did. And he talked about, and we both coming from, and let me just be clear, I don't feel that preachers can't make money. When we was just talking, they can make tons of money. That's not against the thing. My thing is, if they're making money, is the parishioners making money? Is everybody else making money? It's a flow of it. So, like, if we get mad at CEOs making hundreds of millions of dollars, but we're not mad at them. Don't get mad at a pastor who's making that. The thing is, it's inadequacy. It's like, if the CEO making 20 times more than the employees, then you should be mad about that. If the pastor's making 20 times more than the parishioners, then you should be mad about that. But if they're bringing everybody up, then you don't be
correct.
You're not mad at it. Like, so I know certain pastors and what they done and what they. I ain't mad. Like, praise God. Make double it, because I know the people going to make double too.
Exactly.
And some of them making more.
And
right?
that goes back to the fruit. Yeah. That goes back to the fruit. Because if you are a pastor and you're feeding your flock the right people, a pastor should be known by the fruit it bears.
Yes.
So if you're wealthy, then your congregation should be wealthy.
And not wealthy, broke, not fake wealthy.
Oh,
that part.
Not just because you have not that you had the Mercedes, but you're struggling to pay it.
Correct.
I'm talking about
we're talking about genuine, where it's organic.
That you okay with your Ford, but it's paid off.
Yeah.
You're okay with your home because it's paid off.
Exactly.
We're showing you how to pay. You're out of debt. You have a credit score of 780. That's what because now, so we have our vision. Now we could pull people together and buy the land in that neighborhood.
Yes.
Now you could,
now the building fund becomes a reality.
Exactly.
Yes. So, that's
absolutely. Like, so I just want to say, like, I'm going to speak to a couple of things, because you said earlier that, if it's okay, if you can speak to our people. Oh yeah, all day long on this podcast, because as I've talked about and said before, and we said here, is that we are the ones that are lacking knowledge. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's our responsibility in order to say, listen, I love this community. This is my community. These are my people, and I'm going to teach them the ways of being better. Mm-hmm. And that's why we're here, right? Mm-hmm. Purpose, being better. I love what you're saying, and it sounds great. How do you all, the both of you, function in that, though? Because as a couple, we're at odds at times. We don't always.
The spirit don't always dwell with us always. Right?
We don't always agree on what should
Mm-hmm.
happen and when.
Yes.
And I know faith plays a big part in the decisions that you make. Mm-hmm. So as a couple, how do you guys get through arguments and disagreements?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Jesus.
Remember I said words create,
call on the name.
Words create things.
Yes.
So if you call it an argument, then that's what it is.
Oh.
Yeah.
So we don't call it an argument, and we learned that even from with our kids.
Okay.
Because we realize a lot of times, me and my husband, because of our different personalities, that we end up saying the exact same thing that's just in a different way. So because of that, we got to the point that we said, you know what, this is not an argument, this is debate. And then if one of us can realize, hey, we're saying the exact same thing, then we start doing like what is called a timeout to say, hey, hold on, honey, we're saying the exact same thing, just in a different way. But if it is just a disagreement, we have come to terms to say, look, we're adult enough to agree to disagree. But now it boils down to who has the best argument to decide which direction we're going to take. So if my advice or my part or point that I'm making, it basically turns out better than what he's trying to say, then he say, okay, babe, we'll do it your way. If his is better than what I'm saying and it makes more sense, then I'd be like, okay, we'll do it your way. Because we're both leaders in our own way. So because we're both leaders in our own way, then we had to find out each other's strengths. See, when you're dating someone, you're not focused on their flaws. You're not focused on their weakness. You're focused on what they do good and how this and how that. But when you come together and get married, now everything is, oh, he leaves the toothpaste off the top. He leaves the top off the toothpaste. Oh, he leaves the seat up. Now you focused on all his flaws or all her flaws that you didn't care about when you was dating. So what we had came to terms with is that, guess what? To keep us whole, your flaws don't matter. I know you got a weak point, but his weakness is my strength. My weakness is his strength. So if we focus on each other's strength, then we complement each other and we can go a lot further together than me worried about, hey, well, why you ain't do it the way I do it? Or why you didn't. It's not about that. It's me accepting him for who he is and understanding his personality and letting him be him. And knowing that he's the best him that he could possibly be. Forget about your weakness, because as you're working on what you're good at, you're going to become an expert in that. But if he focuses on his weakness, he going to only become average. People don't get paid for being average.
Uh-oh.
I need him to be an expert so he can bring in that expert money.
So we're going to stop for a second.
That's because I got distracted. I was looking at it.
At the beauty.
Yeah.
Listen, you talk that talk is what I'm talking about. And I love it. All of it. But these are the type of conversations that I'm trying to have on social media. And I know y'all say, Alicia, you crazy for even trying to have these conversations on social media. But I'm having these conversations on social media because we need to realize exactly what you're saying. I have said for years, as a couple, you lead together.
That's it.
Whatever I'm strong at, I take the lead on. Whatever you're strong at, you take the lead on. We're going to talk about it together. But whoever is the strongest at something, whatever it is, we're going to yield. We're going to submit to that other person and their strengths.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because if we don't, then we're going to fail.
Yes.
But the biggest thing we had to realize, and this was something that my husband used to always tell me, is that, babe, we're on the same team. And I think a lot of times couples have arguments because they forget that their husband or wife is on their team, even though they're trying to correct them, not to hurt them, but to make them better.
To make the whole stronger.
Yes.
Right. And we had that issue a lot.
Yeah. You have to be, I'm big on teams. I develop teams and create teams. I'm a big sports fanatic, all that. But if you don't, every team will fall apart when the teammates don't feel that person is on my side. That I can't trust them. I can't rely on what they're saying. So the biggest part of this of a relationship is to make sure that this person next to me know that I care for them. I want them to win. I want them to succeed. And if they know that, then even if we're disagreeing, they're gonna come back to it. Your children, they know that you're on their side and you care for them, that no matter what, even when you're in full disagreement, they're gonna still come back to that. It's when they no, they just trying to do something to me and they're not on my side. When you lose that part, and literally one of the things that people, going back to this, bringing spiritual things back into it, if you don't know that God is on your side in this relationship, then it's hard to keep the relationship because it's like, well, is God on the side? Because I don't know if that's really the person for me or not. Yeah, I don't know if what they're arguing. I don't. So that's so important to realize, to make sure that you have that spiritual anchor that say, hey, this person's on my side. God's on my side, and He wouldn't put me with this crazy person unless they were supposed to be with me. Right. Because that person is supposed to be on my side. And I do mean, like, literally, the person's crazy. Why? Why? Come on now. Everybody know in their really, Lord Jesus, that person is crazy. You know you said it.
But
you know you thought
me.
it. And you married the person. So you knew they was crazy and you was okay with it.
He sure was.
And guess what? You're crazy too.
Have to be.
Exactly.
Because you liked it.
Right, exactly. But now you have to know that, hey, guess what? We are on the same team. We're going to get through this.
Yes.
We're going to get, and basically that team going to work together. So.
And I think that was one of our biggest things in the beginning. I always told people with me and Sean, because for us, this is both of our second marriage. Okay. So, and we have a blended family together of 5 children. So people don't know that, because when they see our kids, they think that all 5 was with us because the kids are so tight knitted, and they're not. So we had to say that, we're a blended family. We're like, well, how did y'all make that work? Well, first of all, me and Sean made sure we did an upfront contract.
Okay, let's hear about this upfront contract.
What I always tell people, you have to be able to write the things down that you like to do. So the upfront contract me and Sean did, first of all, I showed him the worst of me before I showed him the best of me. Because I'm like, if you like the ugly side of me, because that side is not going away. As a female, it only gets worse as we get older. Because
what's the ugly side? Because we say that, and we say that we should see somebody in every season of their life, right?
When I say I showed him everything, I was very transparent. Okay. We on a date, another man called my phone. It's on speaker. You can hear the conversation, and I'm telling you exactly what I'm saying to him. You gonna stay with this? Yeah, I got 2 kids. If I'm on the phone with him and I'm yelling at my kids, you gonna hear me yell at my kids. That shit nay. Can you deal with that? So when I say I was very transparent, I was very transparent.
Yes. So we'll also say this, because I think this goes back being very secure. So one of the things, dudes would try to call her or call her or whatever. So a lot of men just get really upset. I remember with some dude was like, he worked with crabs, or he had
he was my crab connect, my seafood connect.
So,
okay, crab connect.
Yeah, not the other crabs. Anyway, just making sure.
We don't want those.
We don't want those crabs.
Okay.
I probably wouldn't keep on dating. Anyway, but my response was, well, I was getting hooked up with the crabs myself, so I was fine. Yeah. But anyway, because of the security, you have to be secure in yourself, right? Yeah. Now, in a relationship, going to spin this forward, is that, are you secure that no matter what, you are who you are? And if you are who you are, and this person should respect who you are. That's it. And they should say, they appreciate who you are. Now, whoever you are, you're going to have weaknesses. Exactly. You're going to have things with flaws and all that. But they still should recognize and say, okay, whoever you are, I love that.
Right.
In middle of all the flaws.
And you don't have to love it.
No, you don't
just have to accept the fact that this is how they are. This is what they do.
I always tell them I love them, but I don't always like them.
That's correct.
True. That's very
that is correct.
It's some things that
you're on my
Sean
nerves
does
today.
Me with.
We not friends today.
Exactly.
Okay. Yes. Now tomorrow when I wake up, it might be a whole different story.
Different.
But today we not friends.
Not friends. Yeah.
And it's okay.
We had this little saying that we say, I'll claim you today.
Okay.
I claim you.
Okay. I like that.
Today I claim you.
And that goes just one more little part of the spiritual part, because actually, if we didn't have that, yes, actually, that I know I was been in arguments that I knew I was wrong, but I just didn't want to give in.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right, you like, I ain't giving in. I know I'm wrong, but I ain't giving in. You know, you're in the middle of the argument, and you like.
They might. Oh, wait. You get to the part and be like, oh, that actually made sense.
Yeah, and you look all inside. It's like inside you. And remember another time, like or like you're in the middle of a thing, and you know that okay, I could end this right here, but I don't really feel like ending it. And you just, and this is true. This is true things, and that if you don't, in my opinion, if you don't have that spiritual, that rock there, then you could continue with that for years. I mean, that could end a relationship over stupid stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. So our
so
faith really grounded us. For me, it was being humble because at one point in time, I realized that I suffered from being a control fanatic. And when I started growing in faith, I started reading that being controlling on everything is a sign of witchcraft. You know what I'm saying? Being able to humble and release things is more Christ-like. But I had to grow into that because when I first met with him, I had been single, divorced from my first husband, and single for 4 years, getting me back together. And one of the things that I had to share with him to say, I said, look, I had to work on me because my first marriage was a 10-year abusive marriage. And most of the time women go from one abusive marriage to another abusive marriage to another abusive marriage. And the reason why that happens is because they don't take time to get to know themselves again. That you have to be okay knowing that man took something from me that now I need to internally take back, which is your power, your strength. And then be able to sit down and write out what were the signs and symptoms that I missed. Because he showed some signs. So those signs is what I actually wrote down in my journal to help me overcome. But I also had to find out what part did I play. See, most people, when they come out of abusive relationship, they just want to talk about the bad, oh, he did this, he did that. To this day, I tell people, I still love my ex-husband. And they're like, what? He did this? Baby, that man taught me how to smell bullcrap a mile away.
Uh-oh.
And for that, I'm grateful. Because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be the strong woman I am today.
Absolutely.
I would still be falling for crap. But because of the things that he showed me, the signs that I was able to learn from him, now I can walk with my head up high. Baby, it's your loss, my game. And that's what people who's gone through an abusive situation need to realize. What we gave up was our power. What we gave up was our strength to someone else. And who we mad at, I'm not mad at him. You know who I'm mad at? Myself. Because I'm like, how come I didn't see that sooner? How did I let this happen to me? So the first thing I had to do was internalize me and then forgive me. Get rid of all that guilt, that shame, and everything like that for me to now start growing and flourishing again. Because if Sean would have met me before I had totally healed, I would have ripped him to shreds. That's what normally happens.
What'd you say, Sean?
One day. I wouldn't have called it back. It was just saying that you wouldn't get there. But that's okay.
That's what normally happens with abusive women. Either they turn into being abusive to a good man, or they continue the cycle by saying, this is what I deserve. Right? Because they never pick themselves up to find their self-worth.
And I just want to say this as a shameless plug, but you need to hear more about that. We have a Together We Rise a podcast, and we actually go into that.
Absolutely. And where can we hear that?
Well, you could definitely go on Facebook and look at Together We Rise podcast, and it's definitely there. We're also getting on Spotify and iHeartRadio and all those guys.
Things.
Yeah.
I love it YouTube. So much.
Yes.
Yes, I love it so much.
And she wrote 2 books. Just shameless plug there.
No shame here.
I said no. Yeah. Shameless. Yeah, just 6 ways to conquer fear. Fear.
I'm crying. Are you listening?
And crying. You listening? So
nice.
Definitely.
You knew the titles.
Yes.
And that's a good husband.
Oh yes, very
good.
Very active.
That knows the titles.
In those.
And has read both of them and was my editor. For some of that. So yeah.
Working together business part. That is the part within the relationship and marriage, and you're working together to build wealth.
So even though it was my project, we always pulled each other in. Like when we first met, he was in a video production and actually shooting a TV show called Name That Flick.
Oh.
So what I did, he had told me that he was going to be working all day. And I said, oh, really? So what I did the night before was actually working in my strength. I made sub sandwiches. He didn't know about it, but I made sub sandwiches for his whole staff and crew. And I showed up unexpectedly and had food laid out for everybody. Just to show him I supported him in what he was doing.
So you've said so many things. I have been quiet over here for the most part because, no, Nikia, you have said so many things that I have said online to people and to women to understand how relationship really works and how we are being unrealistic about how relationships work. And to be better at them.
Yes.
So first of all, everything you've said up to this point of, in this last part of the segment, everything that you have said has been straight on with what I talk about. Okay. So I love you for that. And I'm definitely going to listen to the podcast. So, but also talking about, you just said something and it just struck me. What did you just say?
I said that what I did to support him.
Correct. And so when I say to women, you want a man to show you that he can be a provider from date one.
Yes.
Okay? Date one. How are you showing him that you're going to be his peace, his partner, his wife, his business partner? All of the things that he needs you to be, how are you showing those things to him? And a lot of women these days would not make the sandwiches. They wouldn't make the sandwiches. They wouldn't take the extra step to say, I'm investing in this person because I want them to see what they're getting.
That's it.
They're showing me what I'm going to get. And I need to show them what they're going to get in return.
And I'm going to say that as the male side, that was a big thing for me to transform me to see her in the next level of things. Like, I remember just seeing that. I was like, oh, my God. I'm like, okay. And be honest, coming from a first marriage where I did not have that. So it was actually it was more of, well, why you're succeeding, I'm not, kind of, or that's how they took it, right? And so that is something where I believe, well, on both sides, and I agree completely with you, as the men have to, men have to get back to that role of making sure that they are a provider. You don't have to be the only provider in the house, but you do have to provide something, right? And when we say something, we mean money.
Well, and more than, and yes, please provide that. Right?
But then there's other things. I mean, but some money
needs to come in.
Yeah, and I get it. There's a lot of social challenges and different things like that. I get it. But men, we need to provide. Number two, we need to start being openly able to profess that we love you. You care about you. We see you. Actually, you know what, Ben? See your woman and say what you see. Not just how much fine they are, but see them internally and say what you see.
Yes.
If you know how much time I pour in to her because of her value, but if you see that value, you should pour into that. But many times we don't. I told her I love her 10 years ago. I don't need to say it no more. What? Well, when she's gone, and she might be in the house with you, but she's gone, don't be surprised.
I say this to people, and I don't say it to villainize my ex-husband because, like you said, you love your ex-husband, and I love mine as well, in the sense of you taught me how to be a better me, right? And so I love what you said about that because it's true. I don't hate him. Matter of fact, I don't hate any of my past relationships because they did teach me to be better people, a better person. However, this is the one thing that I remember from being married, right? I remember many things, but this is one thing I do actually remember. And that is, I asked him why. So before we got married, he would do flowers all the time. flowers all the time. And so I asked him, how come he didn't, buy me flowers anymore? And he said, well, I have you now. It doesn't, I don't have to do all of that.
Yeah.
I had to do that to get you, but I don't have to do that now. I've already gotten you.
Yes.
So, and that, we talk about things that people say that make an impression on us, or they change the way that we think about things or how we feel about them. And that was one of the turning points for me looking back, that I'll go, yeah, that's not how I want to feel.
Yes.
At the end of the day.
Right.
But at least yours wasn't on your wedding day.
Oh, well.
Mine told me on the wedding day, now I don't have to love you and show you love the way I did before, because now you're my property. Oh. And then he laughed. And I thought it was a joke. But his actions showed that I was truly his property.
Wow.
That was on wedding day.
Well, one thing we have to say this, and something you said, and women, I'm going to say this to women because women fall into this. Believe what your man say to you.
That's true.
Well.
Because you're like, well, but because I've seen so many times women say, well, but he's, blah, blah, and you just giving a whole bunch of excuses, and everybody else in their blind grandmama could see that person don't love you, not working, not doing anything for you, and he used to give me flowers, and he did, and one thing I came up with, this for men and women too. I said this to my boy one time because he was in a relationship. But she was so cool. I was like, when you say was, that's a problem. Number two is that if a person is not more than 50% cool, they ain't cool. Oh. Right? Actually, you need to be more than 60% cool, really 70% cool to be cool. You're not cool if you're less than that. Especially if you're under 50%, you ain't cool. Just because you was cool doesn't mean you are cool.
It doesn't sustain. It doesn't keep. It doesn't hold.
Yes. Just because you did something for me, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, yesterday, don't mean that you did something for me today. What have you done for me lately? That's
and I always tell people, because most people always ask me if they're family or friends, what is it, or how can I help my friend or my family member if I know they're in an abusive relationship. One of the things I always tell people, remind them how strong they are. Mm-hmm. Don't be like, girl, if I was you, that's not helping her.
Yes.
And I always tell people the reason why I know that, because I know where I was mentally. I left my ex-husband 15 times, but I went back every time. So this is where, when I talk to women now, you have to meet people where they're at. If you know someone is in an abusive relationship, the answer is not always, girl, just go. Girl, one, a person can't just go. You don't know their financial situation. Secondly, you don't know to what level the abuser is. Because some abusers don't let a person out with just their life.
Correct.
You see what I'm saying? It's like, if I can't have you, nobody else is. So you got to weigh the situation completely out before you start giving advice. But I will say the best thing you can do, never close the door. Always let them know you're there to support them, and constantly pour into them positive things, because guess what? They're already getting the negative at home. They're already getting beat down at home. So to have that friend or that family member that can come to them and say, girl, you're beautiful. Girl, I see the courageousness in you. Do you know how strong you are? And remind them of the dreams that they used to talk about and tell you about. Share that with them, because in their quiet time, those are seeds that will eventually take root. I tell people all the time, my oldest brother and my oldest sister, Monica and Emmanuel, was my life savior. They didn't know the words and the conversation that they had with me, that in my quiet time, even when he's doing all the yelling and saying, oh, you ain't worth this, you was constant screw up and cussing me out, her soft voice is in my ear saying, but sis, you're so smarter than that. Sis, you're beautiful. Sis, you're strong. But one thing I can say, that God used him one time when we was in an argument. And I sure was about to drive that car off the cliff. We both gonna go today. I said, I'm so sick and tired of you. And we was in a car arguing, and I was driving, and he was on the passenger side. And I will never forget this. After arguing, he turned to me, and he says, Kia, The day that you realize how beautiful you are on the inside will be the day that you leave me. And when he said that, it jolted something on the inside of me where I had to go look in the mirror and find that girl that he was seeing. Mm-hmm. Those words right there that my ex-husband said to me in the middle of that argument is what jolted me and said, kid, you better than this. Kid, you're stronger than this. Find her again.
That's an incredible story to hear someone down you and tell you the worst, that you're the worst person and you do the worst things and all of that, and to spark within you from words matter.
Yes.
Yep.
We know this.
Yep.
So for someone to then veer away from their script, right? Whether it was divine, it was what they veered away from their script and changed their voice, which allowed you to say, wow, I need to change something within me. And don't we do that in relationships with one another?
Yep.
So pouring into one another, I love that. I stopped you, and we went off on a tangent, a good one. But I stopped you about the contract, and I want to come back to that. You said you made an agreement, you made a contract. Yes. So he saw the worst of you.
Yes.
And then
we sat down when we started getting closer, and we actually started finding out from like household chores to even things at work. What do you like doing? So that's what we asked. I didn't ask him what you don't like doing. What do you like doing? And then he asked me the same thing. So I like folding, after the clothes are washed and dried, I like folding them up and putting them away. He likes washing clothes. So ever since me and him been together, I never have to wash clothes.
Oh,
he washed clothes.
How do I need that trick.
It was an upfront asking because in the house he does the things that he enjoys doing. I don't have to clean a bathroom. I don't enjoy doing that. He does, but he doesn't have to cook or wash dishes because that's what I enjoy doing. So when it comes down to cooking, when you do that, you allow your partner to be happy when they're doing their chores because they're doing something they enjoy doing. So it's not work. It's not, oh, I gotta cook for him. I don't like. It's not that. It's when I'm cooking out of love and joy because I enjoy doing it. When he's washing clothes, he's doing it out of love and joy because he enjoys doing it. So that's how we did the upfront contract. Even when we became business partners, when he had his business, I supported him because I was like, well, hey, he doesn't like numbers. Numbers is my passion. So I'm like, well, hold on. Let me have your pricing list. I said, I'll do the pricing for your video production business because you're selling yourself short. So on the outside, I can see his work. Just like on the outside, he can see my work. But you can't see your own worth sometimes. So you have to let a person who can see you from a different perspective be able to share some things. And so that was some things that we also did. So even in business, we wrote down for each other what the other person likes to do. So he likes to go out and meet people. He can walk up to anybody and have a conversation. That's not me. If you notice, if we're together, I'm kind of standing off in the background. He's out there talking to people. But
for as long as I've known you two, yes.
But I'm very good on the phone. So once he gets the name and number, I'm the caller. So I'm the voice that you hear on the other end of the phone and telling you, well, hey, you met my husband. These are some things that we do. I'm very good on the phone. And so when it comes down to doing that follow-up, I feel like that both of us has that strength in sitting down with someone to do that follow-up and show the services that we offer. But on the front end, we've learned very early what are our roles, what are our strengths, what do we both enjoy doing. So therefore, when we went into business together, nobody is upset because everybody is doing what they enjoy doing.
And they're leading in the way that what they're best at. I love that so much. Like I said, you're saying a lot of the things that I tell my audience already because these sound like simple and basic things. Yes. But a lot of people just don't understand how to come together as one.
They don't. And a lot of that is because it's no real marital classes out there. There's no real pre-relationship classes out there. That when I say that, like you're going. I know we all now. I know we in this room we all might have something in this room.
Yes, in
but
this
when
room
they
we
go
do.
there, I still remember my first before my first marriage, or we sat in front of the preacher, and he said, "Yeah, because." It's better to get married before you burn instead of burn. I'm like, because that's the word. It says so. I'm like, I should have burned. I'm just telling you. I'm just saying. I should have burned. It was.
Listen. We all have been, not all of us, but those who have been divorced have been there.
Been there. And Pastor should say, you know what? Burn it a little bit for this next, because you're going to get rid of that person. And if you all stay together, you won't be together much more longer. I mean, it was, because realistically, if we had a class that was saying that, because we talk about the contract, we talk about the agreement. I mean, sure you all going to agree to, and guess what? That agreement going to change.
Yep.
Something, and you have to come back and revisit.
Come on now. It is the yearly.
We literally just revisited.
Okay, see.
Yeah.
So now do y'all, because I tell my couples yearly, you need to sit down and you need to figure out, what does this year in love look like? What does this year in marriage look like?
Yes.
How do we want to grow? How do we, in these different areas of our union, even spiritually?
Yes.
How do we, where do we want to take our spirituality next?
That's it.
And we have, over the last, I guess, almost 20 years, we have did a life plan every year.
Every year.
Yes.
So it deals with your spiritual, your marriage, your business, all those areas, what you're going to do for when the kids are small, even now they all grown, we're still, hey, how are we going to do this or mentor this or learn? And you have to, because anything you're not intentional in, you're not going to be able to do. So you have to be having a time of intentional plan, and then on purpose keep back looking at that. Now on our agreement part though, and a bond agreement, different things though, so I'm going to say a little quick thing, because when we got together, both of us came from our ex relationship. I always say sometimes it's easier. Well, I would say this, when like her coming from her relationship and it was abusive. Hey, I ain't ever worried about her going back. You know what I mean? Okay. It wasn't, but on my side, it wasn't necessarily abusive. But the person did things, and we, things outside the marriage, and we broke up. Right? Okay. We ended up breaking up. It was better that we left. However, she was still around, and because of different reasons, we came up to a agreement, and it was my fault. I put this in my fault because I didn't lay certain boundaries. Now, I would just assume, because just even recently, that if you broke up, that the other person just won't come around and doing certain things. Because I didn't do that.
I mean, that would be common sense. Okay.
Yeah,
but some people don't have common sense.
Well, people don't. But like you said, people don't have. Well, people don't have boundaries.
Right.
And unless you put those boundaries in place, not only put them in place, but enforce them.
Yeah.
That's it.
Then people will step over them. They will be what they say, habitual line steppers.
Yes.
They will.
Yes. and I'm not even blaming that person. I'm blaming on that. And it took me now. How long this year is our 14th year. So really, if you want to say about 13 of those years, is like when she would bring something up about it. I'm like, well, I ain't interested in that. I'm not, and I'm thinking it's about that. And no, it's more about the boundaries, and you're not setting the boundaries. And it took me in my hard skull to get to this point to have clarity.
It was a lot of debates on that.
There was a lot of debates.
A whole lot of debates. Heated debates.
So when that, and then when I laid, put those boundaries and enforce them, it's been a big change. But you don't know. But as we realize, she agreed to it either silently or verbally, saying, hey, by not laying down the line, hey, look, this is what you need to do now, or this is how I feel when this is happening. And really also communication is communicating to you understand. Exactly. It's not just communicating, because a lot of times,
or the two times, and then you say, I'm fed up with this and I'm leaving.
To the other person understand, and
Yes.
not only understand like what you're saying, but understand the underlying feelings and emotions that's connected to that.
While you are owning those feelings.
Exactly.
I feel this way when
Yes.
this happens. I'm not putting my feelings on you. I'm saying I don't want to feel this way anymore.
Exactly.
Right.
I don't want to feel this way, and I want you to stop doing the thing.
Yes.
And it's okay to say that.
Exactly.
And you
Right?
should,
And
because
you should.
otherwise you're is an
And the
erosion.
other person don't
Yes.
understand. And that was one of the things that, and I felt guilty, so I also took ownership because I didn't always express my feelings. It was just kind of building up. And the reason why I didn't is because it was like in my head, Kia, in the beginning you agreed to it. And how now in the middle of the game, you gonna change
wanna
your
change
mind.
it.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
this is why it's okay to revisit that agreement, because something that
Absolutely.
you agreed to in the beginning of your relationship
May not work now.
and you're constantly changing and evolving.
I think that is an issue with relationships where people want you to stay the same all the time.
Yeah.
And they don't want you to change for your own growth, for your own peace, for the relationship, as a whole. If I don't do something different, if I don't grow, if I don't change, the relationship becomes stagnant.
Yeah.
That's it.
So allow me the opportunity in the room to grow to where I need to be.
Yes.
Exactly.
For the health of all of us.
All of us.
That's
Yes.
it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. No, some people are scared that if a person grow, that they outgrow them. They think, and one of the things we have said this, that yes, a person can't outgrow you if you're not growing.
Exactly.
So if they're growing and you're not, you're like, hey, I ain't picking up no self-help information. I ain't gonna go and get any more education. I'm just fine the way I am. Okay, and they're steady doing stuff with, yes, even if you felt they was some reason lower
you.
growth than you, they're going to outgrow you. And then that's a change of dynamics that you might not feel you want. So it's so important for people to grow. And one of the things I guess we have always done is grow on together on purpose.
Yeah,
Okay.
intentionally.
Yeah.
So
Intentionally.
self-improvement. So in the beginning, I was not an avid reader. I didn't like to read.
Okay.
And so we both were strong on self-development. So in the beginning, we would always pick a book for that quarter that we would read. And so at night, to bring us close together, Sean would read out loud. I'm an audio learner. So he would read to me at night. And so I would take my notes off of him reading. We were reading the same book, but I ain't have to read it. He was reading it. And I just take notes and grow from that. So we learned how to always do things together. And so when we got into business together, even having an office, our office was 2 desks in the same room facing each other, because he's like, I just feel better when I'm looking at you all day. So we're driving to the office together. We're in the office all day long together, looking at each other, and then we drive home together. And we did that for 9 years straight as we built our business.
Yes.
But it was a way that we got closer, understood each other. Now, in the beginning, I'm not going to say it always worked that way. In the beginning, when I first went and brought Sean into my business, which was the financial service business, and he was still in TV production, and I was like, you know what, Sean, I think I'm really gonna need you, in the financial business. So he ended up coming in the business with me, and when he first did, I'm like, I should have left your home pots at home.
Oh.
When I say that we was bumping heads left and right, we would be in presentations, and he's a perfectionist. So if I would mispronounce a word, honey, that won't right. You should have said this in front of the client. And I'm looking at him like, do you want me to sucker punch you right now? we about to go at it. And it really.
I'm way too fast. She couldn't hit me.
He said he learned how to duck.
And so you thought.
So I always tell people we had those moments.
Yes.
But it was okay to have those moments. That was our growing pain.
Yes.
But what really saved us, because even before we got married, because it was during the time that we was just engaged, and me, because of my ghosts, I would be like, Sean, I'm gone. I'm out of here. Deuces. I called off the wedding 55 times, to the point Sean was just like, look, I'm going to be here on August the 14th at such and such time at Botanical Garden. If you show up, then I know that it's for real.
Actually, you know what? Real talk. we got married before the wedding, so to make sure it didn't
It
matter
didn't,
if
but
she got married before the wedding. No one else knew.
Good
Most
planning.
people don't know
Good
that.
planning, sir.
Yeah, so that's what he
most
did.
people don't.
He
most
said-
of my
that's that
friends
teamwork,
don't know
though.
that.
He
Yeah.
actually surprised me one day. It was
Actually, a lot of people
it
know
was,
in this
it
right
was
now.
January 21st of 2010,
Mm-hmm.
and he surprised me. He said, "We're going for a drive." And so I'm like, well, why are our friends following us? He said, don't worry about them. You know. So we get to the drive, come to find out he took me to a judge house who actually had his garage turned into a
chapel.
A chapel.
Nice.
And so that's when we went and got married. And
I love
only it was
that
just
idea.
me and him and our friend Penny and Fletcher.
Yeah. And that just took the,
babe,
the
because
pressure off it.
I know that you're watching this. We need a chapel, and I just want to say that we need a chapel.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how we did it. But we didn't tell anybody. So nobody
Okay.
didn't know. But
Yeah,
the reason why
nobody-
we did it is because the minister that we wanted to preside over our wedding wasn't licensed to marry. So
Okay.
he had told us ahead of time, y'all will already need to have that done.
Already,
if
and then
you
we
want
can
it.
actually do
Yeah.
the visual
Exactly.
of everything. I
So,
love it.
So that's what we did. I looked at her. I said, "You just doing this because you got scared. You thought I wasn't gonna show up."
She wasn't gonna show up. Well, it was a
But-
possibility. No,
Hey, look,
I
knew it
had
was
to say what really saved us was my I had an aunt. She passed away last year, but my aunt Deborah.
we love Deborah.
Yes,
I love Deborah.
my aunt Deborah.
Yes.
I went over to her house. We call her auntie, so we was over there, and she loved her Sean. So, and no matter what debate me and Sean had, auntie was taking Sean's side.
Yeah.
And like,
Well,
kid,
it
why
was
you
right.
talking to him like
I was
that?
right.
Kid, why you doing?
I was
So-
always right though.
It was Auntie said. So I actually said, Auntie, I want to have a serious conversation with you. And Sean's like, yeah, she keep running away from me. She keeps saying she leaving me. So Auntie looked at me. She was like, Kia, you know what worse look like. She says, you already had worse. But she said, as long as you keep leaving as an option on the table, the enemy is going to always bring up a situation where leaving is going to be the option you choose. She's like, so have you ever thought about taking leaving off the table? She's like, you know what worse look like. So she's like, is he worse or is he better than that? I said, oh, he's way better. She says, well, then if he's way better than that, what are you worried about? She says, so take leaving off the table. And she said, and the other thing you have to realize, she says, don't look at him that you need him. Look at him that you want him. Because when you want a person, then you're willing to fight along with that person through anything.
The wisdom of Aunt Deborah.
Yes.
We miss her so much.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much for y'all coming on here. It has been an absolute pleasure. I mean, I always have great guests. I love my guests. I always want them to come back for more. But I just have to say that this has been a pleasure for me because the conversation went so much onto what I always say to my audience. And so I really felt connected in this interview. And I just appreciate you for that. And I thank you for coming on the show and really just getting people to understand. And I'm saying this because we're talking from a spiritual perspective. And a lot of times when you talk to a spiritual person, they don't see it quite the way that you have presented it here. Everything is about faith. Everything is about only know this way. And they're not really seeing the benefits of staying within the faith. However, also adding in to the time and where we live.
Yes.
it.
And being
Yes.
able to maneuver that inside of your faith.
Yes.
So I really do appreciate you both bringing that forward. And you can come on anytime.
Yeah, right.
Amen.
You're welcome back
We'll be back.
anytime.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Once again, tell us where we can find your podcast because we are definitely going to listen to that.
Yeah, so you can find us on Facebook, Instagram.
YouTube and TikTok.
Yes.
So,
we
and we're-
definitely believe that divided you fall.
But together we stand. Also,
Well, what's the name of the podcast? You have to
Together
say?
We Rise
Together.
podcast.
Yes.
Together We Rise
it's
podcast.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And our extra is really divided we fall and together we
rise.
Exactly. Not staying, sweetie.
Okay. Oh, she corrected me on that.
And with that, absolutely. You guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. And we will see you next time on The Dating Mechanics Show.